Hello, this is Sondra Oster, Baras, bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's portion is Vayetzei, and here we follow the adventures or travails of Jacob as he has to flee from his brother Esau, who was plotting to kill him, and he ends up going to Haran to his uncle Laban, and there he meets Laban's two daughters, Rachel and Leah, and of course he falls in love with Rachel, and all that he has to go through in order to be able to marry Rachel. This is a very important part of the story. And we learn early on, of course, he loves Rachel. He does not love Leah. He is tricked into marrying Leah, but it is Rachel who he loves. And Leah is fertile. She has children right away. Rachel is not. Rachel joins the tradition of the women of Israel, Sarah and Rebecca before her, who are barren and to whom this causes great grief. And I find, though, that in the discussion of Jacob and Rachel, where she expresses her enormous sorrow in not being able to conceive, is one of the most beautiful expressions of the frustration of a woman who so wants to have a baby and cannot, or has not yet been successful. And I'd like to just read some of those verses. We're looking at Genesis chapter 30. When Rachel saw that she had borne Jacob no children, she became envious of her sister. And Rachel said to Jacob, "Give me children." Okay, give me children. And if there are no children, I will die. Okay? V'im ayin meta anochi. It's not just, or I shall die. It is, if there will be none, I will die. Such an extreme expression of her deep suffering in her desire to bear a child and her inability to do so. Now, unfortunately, Jacob is very angry. Not so nice that he's so angry. He is not really sensitive enough to Rachel's feelings. And he says to her, Jacob is angry at Rachel and says, "Can I take the place of God who has denied you the fruit of the womb?" Just look at these two verses. It's so human, and it's something we can understand and we see. A woman desiring a child is something that, if you are not a woman who desires a child, it's almost impossible for you to understand how deeply physical that desire is, that longing to bear a child, to have a child, the fruit of your own womb, to bring forth that child. I, thank God, never had trouble conceiving, and I bore 5 children of my own. And I can tell you one of the most amazing points in my life was the birth of each of those 5 children. That enormous moment when your baby comes forward from your womb and suddenly you have given birth. It is an amazing moment. And it's a moment, I also believe that, you could say, oh, there might be a sense, I did this, I did it. But it's really quite the opposite. It's a moment of miracle. It's in a moment where this baby has come forward and you look at the baby and you said, I cannot believe that life has come from me in this way. And it's an amazing moment of gratitude to God, because it is a miracle. It's an amazing, amazing miracle. So I think at all levels, what Rachel is going through now is, on the one hand, this enormous personal yearning to have a child, but there's no question she understands that it is of God. She knows that, okay? And therefore, Jacob's response to her is just a little uncalled for, because he gets angry at her. That's number one. Instead of sympathizing with her, instead of trying to understand where she's coming from, he's angry at her. And then he says, what, you think I'm God? Of course she doesn't think he's God. She is expressing her terrible, terrible suffering. And instead of responding with sympathy, Jacob just says, what do you want from me? I am not God. And in a way, you can contrast this with the way Isaac and Rebekah handled her barrenness, where the two of them went together and they went to pray. Each in their own corner, standing together, they prayed to God. And here, there's a bit of a discord going on here. And it takes a while. It takes a while until they figure it out. And initially, what happens in this situation is that Rachel comes up with this plan, take my maidservant Bilhah, and then, have a child with her, and then it's a child that I will raise. It's a plan that had been tried with Abraham and Sarah and Hagar, had not been successful. In the case of Jacob and Rachel, it is much more successful. Anyway, but what does Rachel say when Bilhah has this baby? God has vindicated me indeed, and he heard my plea and has given me a son, and therefore she named him Dan. Now, I'm not sure if vindicated is really the right word. I'm just reading from the English translation. In Hebrew, it says, Danani Elohim, and that really means God has judged me and has listened to me. And I think there's two things going on. There's no question here. Rachel has prayed, and she has been praying all along. So when Jacob says to her, what am I, God? Well, she's not turning to him instead of God. She's been praying all along. And therefore, when Rachel says, yes, God heard my plea, clearly because she's been praying to him. But also when she says, God has judged me, okay, on the one hand, it could be positive. God has judged me and therefore given me this son through Bilhah. On the other hand, it could be at this point she realizes God is judging her. Bilhah has a son. She does not. And maybe this is a certain lesson that she must learn, patience, continued prayer, until ultimately she does bear her own child, Joseph. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that video, and we'd like to be sure you're getting all of our video content. So just click on the subscribe button below, as well as on the notification bell, and that way you will have easy access to all our material. We look forward to staying in touch with you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.